So, dear friends, welcome to the next episode of Kaho webinar. The topic today is, in fact, very complex and I think very interesting, and that is how to solve a hospital's chronic problem. And those problems are galore. I mean, whether from time being taken for discharge or uh, problems that we are creating at the time of handover, many things where patient dissatisfaction and the patient safety issues keep cropping up. And to discuss this problem, we could have not found a better person than Mr. Suresh Lulla, who is I think, pioneer in problem solving. He is a person who probably by now does not need much introduction to the Kaho viewers, but just for the sake of a little repetition, he is a graduate from IIT Mumbai and then from the Wayne State University in Detroit, and has been trained by the father of quality in the world, that is Mr. J.M. Juran. And by now, he himself has that kind of a stature for us in India, that Mr. Suresh Lulla is very well known for his involvement, his passion for quality. And today, I think we are all going to benefit from his approach and this talk on how to establish a quality improvement project to solve a hospital's chronic problem. Over to you, Mr. Suresh Lulla.
Thank you, Dr. Vijay Agarwal. Your warm introduction is very touching. For those of you who don't know Dr. Vijay Agarwal, which is quite rare, I suppose, he's a man with a mission. And he has a vision that quality improvement in healthcare will be a global benchmark. Is that right, Dr. Agarwal?
We are trying to follow your footsteps, sir.
Okay. As already explained, the title for today's webinar is how to establish a quality improvement project to solve a hospital's chronic problem. There are three keywords here: establish, quality improvement, and chronic problem. Let's start with chronic problem. Chronic problems do not come with an alarm. They are cemented in the processes that drive an organization. Sporadic problems come with alarms. And like a firefighting department, the quality control department puts the fire out. They treat the symptomatic evidence of a problem. Chronic problems, one has to proactively look for them. How do we identify chronic problems? A very easy approach is to do a flow chart of a process. And wherever you have your decision diamonds, that is where you have control, quality control. And wherever you have a rework loop, that's an opportunity for improvement. If you work closely with a cost accountant on the rework loops, you will get a cost implication of that repetitive failure. Now, what is a quality improvement project? It's a problem scheduled for solution. Who establishes this? top management, a quality council chaired by the CEO. Membership to the council is heads of various functions, and an enlightened quality council may even include a customer and a supplier. The quality council prioritizes all these rework loops in terms of their cost implication or customer satisfaction implication. So the nominations come from this kind of effort, and who should do it? Senior management. If they can't walk their talk on quality improvement, then nothing is going to happen in an organization. The efficiency of a process is measured in financial terms with the cost of poor quality. The effectiveness of that process is measured in terms of customer satisfaction. So once you've got the nominations, you need to establish your prioritized project. And to establish the project, you need to prepare a mission statement. A mission statement tells you what is the real problem and what a team should be doing about it. Select a team. The problem selects a team. Anyone impacted by the problem is a candidate for the team. The team verifies the mission, gets agreement, and that finally serves as a contract between the team and the quality council. Now let's look at this a little more closely. A mission statement. The mission statement has the problem to be resolved, what is wrong, and what has been repetitively wrong. The objective of the project, that is what the team is to do about the problem, is the second part. Problems come in all sizes, elephant-sized problems. These elephant-sized problems can be solved project by project, bite by bite. That's why it's known as continual quality improvement. Problem statement should be specific. It should be so unique that we have no concern that a similar problem was solved. It should be observable, visible to the eyes. When it's visible, it's easier to sell the results of the improvement. Should be measurable. What you measure, you can improve. And it should be of a manageable size for a team that meets periodically, regularly, and a team that can meet regularly for about, say, 3 months, 4 months. Let's take an example. Our average length of stay for total hip replacement surgery is 1.2 days longer than the average for other hospitals in the area. Is this a specific problem? It names a specific procedure, the hip replacement. 2, it also talks about the length of stay. It's observable because you can find in records the number of days of stay. It's measurable because we're talking about how many days. And it's manageable. A manageable problem is one that can be solved in 15, 20 weeks by a cross-functional team. It's manageable because it's focusing on only one process and one dimension of that process, which is length of stay. Again, repeating the same problem, our average length of stay for hip replacement surgery is 1.2 days longer than the average in the area. So what is the team to do about it? Reduce the length of stay for total hip replacement surgery to the best in the area. That gives a target to the team. They know the problem and they know what is expected of them by the Quality Council. What we need to avoid in a problem statement is implying a cause. It is so easy to slip into this. Suggesting a remedy, assigning blame. These are the typical pitfalls of problem definition. Here's an example, a variation of our original. Our average length of stay for total hip replacement surgery is 1.2 days longer than the average in the area. Eliminate the postponement of scheduled hip replacement surgeries that lead to longer lengths of stay. It's implying a cause, that it's the postponement of scheduled hip replacement that is causing an extraordinary length of stay. Let's look at another variation. Our average length of stay for total hip replacement surgery is 1.2 days longer than the average in the area. Average in the area because we do not have special case management planning. Here we are suggesting a remedy. Case management planning. The discharge planning department needs to improve their procedures to reduce the average length of stay for total hip replacement surgery to the best in the area. Are we assigning blame? Discharge planning department? I can see the discharge planning department leading the project, but is the blame traceable to discharge planning department? When you start blaming an individual department or an individual person, you're unlikely to get cooperation as you work on a project. The Quality Council has one more responsibility: a team charter. The team charter directs the team to use the quality improvement process. Now, there are a variety of quality improvement processes. They all basically talk about defining the problem, diagnosing the problem, remedying the problem, and locking the improvements. In other words, going from symptom to cause through a diagnostic journey, and from cause to remedy with a remedial journey. Taking the symptom to cause journey is relatively simple. It involves the use of quality improvement tools. But it's the remedial journey from cause to remedy that is the problem, because implementing change is not that simple, particularly when the change has to be with people. It's easier to change an equipment, it's tougher to change people. The team charter legitimizes the team and authorizes the team to collect relevant data and develop a remedy. This authority can move from department to department. Indicates how much time each team member should spend on the project each week. In my experience, a half day per week for each member is adequate for problem solving. Provides access to resources. You may need some extraordinary resources, such as a specialist, owing to the nature of the problem. These can be on-call resources, or you may need someone who knows how to diagnose or gather data. These kind of resources are on call beyond the team. Cross-functional teams. Cross-functional team involvement promotes sharing of the problem and minimizes finger pointing. Where are problems typically harbored? Not in the functions of an organization, because work is flowing across the functions, cross-functional. They are harbored on the fences which don't belong to any function. So you have finger pointing going back and forth. The diversity of team members brings a broad working knowledge of the process to be improved. Now, can you imagine doing a flow chart singularly or with a team? My bet is that you know your part of the flow chart well, and you always seem to minimize or dilute the importance of the other parts of the process. Jointly drawing a flow diagram broadens our understanding of the process and the problem. The very fact that you have representation from various departments creates that ownership for the change. We overcome the not invented here syndrome. People have designed the solution, they own the solution, and they'll be happy to implement the solution. How do you select a team? To select a cross-functional team, the Quality Council considers where the problem is observed and experienced, or, in other words, the process. Where sources or causes of the problem might be found. Invariably, you import the problems from your suppliers or internal suppliers. Who has special knowledge, information, or skill in uncovering the root cause of the problem? You need a specialist here. You need expertise on problem solving. You may need a facilitator who might be helpful when developing a remedy. You may need a behavioral scientist to come in at this stage. Team members. Each team member must be trained to become an effective team member. The training would be on the steps of problem solving and the tools that we need to go through the process. Team members must commit themselves to attending team meetings, which are usually weekly. Where inconvenient, we know companies that have added 1 hour prior to normal work or worked 1 hour after the closing of a factory. Some even come on Saturdays to meet. The presence of any member in a team is important because the knowledge they bring is critical. We have no wallflowers in a team. You are selected because the problem is best understood from your paradigm and the other members' paradigms. So between 2 meetings, there's usually a small task or a big task assigned to every member. This must get completed. So over and above the weekly meeting, there is some degree of preparatory work time. Participate actively in team meetings and encourage others to do so. Team meetings can get dominant members, silent members, disruptive members who are cross-talking, or who are too busy with their mobile phones. It is important that at a team meeting, you are seen to be participating and sharing your knowledge. Finally, verify the mission. The Quality Council has given a team a mission. They've come to that conclusion based on macro information and a very high level of thinking. When the team members meet and they do a flow chart, they'll make sure if the mission is effective statement. They verify that the problem, does it really exist, or is it the imagination of the council? They identify any aspects of the problem that need clarification. You may have asked me to improve the efficiency of the process. The efficiency results could be in cost of poor quality. But you've said, please also measure the improvement in customer satisfaction and employee satisfaction. You can't have multiple measures for a project. You need one. You need clarification from the council as to what are we supposed to be actually doing. Verify that team members represent appropriate departments, and if any has been overlooked, make a recommendation to include one. Obtain clarification and agreement from the council on any tweaks you want to make to the mission statement or team membership. This is the only chance you get to redefine the problem and the objective. Once committed, it's a contract between you and the council. I'd like to now dwell on when quality improvement was unknown in India. This is talking of, say, 3 decades back. How did we implement improvement in industry? The first lesson I learned from Dr. Duran is that quality improvement is a top-down subject. If you can't engage with the top management, if you can't get their commitment for some degree of time, total continual quality improvement initiative is going to flop. So here was I, meeting the chairman of Tata Steel, Mr. Rusi Modi. Mind you, 3 decades ago, it was the darling of the share market. And the conversation ran with my jargon. Do you have chronic problems? He didn't know what I was talking about. Cost of work quality, do you have failure rates? He just smiled at me. He said, everything I produce sells. There are no problems in Tata Steel. We went further, and I give him credit that he had an open mind, and going through the elements of cost of work quality, agreed that the cost of work quality is 1/3 of sales at Tata Steel. This had to be now presented to the top management, and nominations came from them. Nominations came for each company within Tata Steel, and each one claiming that they have more chronic problems. Mr. Modi stood up and said, I have 65,000 employees. 65,000 employees must have quality in their culture. I am not going to work on quality improvement if it's only going to benefit the shareholders. That was a big lesson. So what were the nominations? He asked for, what is it that affects the employees the most? What are the problems of the employees? So nominations came such as leaking roofs in the quarters, garbage not collected, and so on. These were chronic problems that were accepted as a way of life. A team was formed with the top management being members of the team for garbage not collected. They solved that problem talking to telco about spare parts, dump trucks, etc. I won't get into that. But there was an uninvited guest that came on the back of garbage not collected. That was illness leading to absenteeism. The problem of absenteeism, unplanned, was 1%. This 1% had to be dealt with, and it became an elephant-sized problem for the whole campus. So the focus was first on a small bite in the tubes division, with Firdaus Vandrewala heading it. 1% absenteeism translated to scrap of using a Badli, untrained worker, leading to more scrap. All this added up to 15 lakhs per month in 1989. That's almost 2 crores of rupees in the smallest division of Tata Steel. So Firdaus Vandrewala and I said, let's do an autopsy. Let's go and find out from the workers who are absent, why are they absent? Knock, knock on one of the doors, and the door opens with a Sardar in a vest and a lungi, looking the picture of health. Why are you absent? He said, my son is not well, beta bimar hai. Kya hua? What happened? Oh, nothing much, khas kuch nahi. Sardi zukam. For that, you haven't come to work? So he explained that he went to Tata Hospital, and the registration procedure took him, in those days, mind you, 1989, 2.5 hours. Thereafter, the doctor met him, and he had to again stand in a line for medication, the prescriptions from the pharmacy. All this took an inordinate amount of time, by which time you marked me absent for the day. Where were the remedial actions in the hospital? The registration procedure was brought down from 2 hours to 20 minutes. This is before computers really came into play. What was the impact on the whole campus? 80 crores per annum, recurring. Tata Steel became believers, and Dr. J.J. Irani led from the front. He realized that quality improvement is a business opportunity. If we can reduce the wasteful costs in our processes, we would be the lowest cost producer of steel in the world. A decade later, they were in reality the lowest cost steel producer in the world. That led them to buying 6 units across the globe, knowing how to turn it around. The lessons of Tata Steel apply to any hospital. Capacity utilizations. The admissions process, the discharge process can unlock capacity. The utilization of your equipment improves. Make quality improvement a way of life. It is a top-down subject. The leadership has to play a role, without which you will not establish the right projects. You will have trivial many projects running around, but the vital few will be forgotten. top management nominate projects from the strategic plan. They understand customer focus. So you have projects that are leading to improving the top line, the revenue, through customer satisfaction, and the bottom line through reducing the cost of poor quality. So I trust I have covered the scope of the webinar topic. We know who establishes a project, that's the top management. We know quality improvement is about challenging the standards. And we know that that chronic problems don't come with alarms. You have to proactively search for them. They have been budgeted for. All those inefficiencies in the guise of standards. In quality control, we maintain that standard. In quality improvement, you challenge that standard. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Suresh Lulla. I think it was almost mesmerizing the way you have kind of put up. You see, the problem in healthcare is that majority of the people do not want to have even spend that much time, and they are all looking at quick fix things, and that's where our problems are. That the top management most of the times is looking at quick fix. How do we explain to them the importance of going through this entire structured process to solve a problem? Is something I think probably you will have to elaborate a little. How do we do that?
You have to do it by speaking their language, which is money. Convert the opportunity into money. If the cost of poor quality is 1/3 your total cost, and you were to halve it, you can more than double your profit. That would appeal to them. 2, we talk of employees being our asset. I would add one more dimension. They are the only asset that appreciate in value in an organization. All other assets depreciate. And yet we see employees as a cost and not as an asset in our reporting. Isn't that strange? Now, these very employees, if they are engaged in quality improvement projects, they can deliver 1,000% ROI per project, tenfold the cost of those employees' time. I am not talking of numbers in the air. These have been proven. The Japanese have proved it. Some Indian companies have proved it. And the healthcare space needs to do it. I appreciate that healthcare management is a lot more challenging than business. The reason being that, human life is at stake. If human life is at stake, there's every reason and even more reason to bring in quality into your processes, bring reliability into your processes. I dream, think, speak of quality, and perhaps that's why my answers would always be built around such an argument. But some listen and most people forget.
Yes, but you're absolutely right. I mean, whatever you have said is what makes sense. The problem is that, as you said, that the solution starts from the top. And if the top is impervious to the whole concept, then there is going to be no solution. And I think, on the whole, it has been a tremendous, I think, learning, I'm sure, for all of us. If participants have any questions, please do kind of ask also, and you can even send a question to us at Kaho or at Impro, and I'm sure Mr. Suresh Lulla will be very happy to answer that. Uh, in fact, but actually the whole your flow of your talk has been so clear cut and simple that it's not a question of question, it's an issue of implementation, it's an issue of how do we put this thought process in action. And therefore, I think we will probably take your help in healthcare to identify the cost of poor quality in healthcare, because that's where probably it's easier in a manufacturing industry to put that number. But in healthcare, there may be other challenges to kind of how do we arrive that. So I think we will take your help to take this process forward. We don't want to leave it just at this webinar, because we need to kind of give more inputs. So we have one question as to how to increase quality culture in the organization between each employee in the hospital.
The first is get a buy-in from top management. People are not stupid. They see what the top management is focusing on. Right from the kind of agenda the secretary makes for the meetings, where is quality on the agenda? Is the top management spending enough time reviewing quality? That's one. Two is include quality improvement into job design. What you measure, you get. If you're asking me to work on quality as an extra effort, it won't happen. But if you make it part of my job design, you make it part of the promotion policy, it'll happen. Organizations have done all this. Not related to this question, but may I just give you an example of how a leader in a hospital adopted quality. I was visiting a hospital in South India. I won't mention the city either, lest it be proprietary, a little embarrassing. And the owner of that hospital, of a 200-bedded hospital, was showing me another tower coming up with 200 beds. So my conclusion was that there is a big demand for the hospital. So my next question was, what is your capacity utilization? He said 35%. I was shocked. And you're building another tower? He said, you see, the discharge process takes very long, etc. And technically the rooms are occupied, but they're not available. Quality improvement projects were introduced in that hospital. And he didn't need the second tower because he improved his capacity utilization of its existing resources to 60% or so. Now, did he save some money? A big investment?
Tremendous.
Yes, he did. Now, the only business we should be in is quality improvement. We made our processes so complicated. Simplifying them with quality improvement is the solution.
So thank you, Mr. Lulla. And I think with this, we are coming to the end of this webinar. But as I said, I will be engaging with you to take this initiative forward on a real-time basis to maybe take up with some more CEOs and all that for us to understand their viewpoint. So thank you so much. And I'm sure that everybody has benefited. Thank you, sir.
I would suggest you have a session on leadership for quality improvement in healthcare.
Yes, definitely. We'll be working on that. I'll get back to you.
We can spell out the roles and responsibilities that are expected if you want to make it a way of life.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.